On a quiet summer night in Cheshire, England, an 81-year-old man lay sleeping in his bed. He had no idea that his wife of 38 years was in the kitchen, boiling water, adding sugar, preparing something that would cause him unimaginable agony. What she did next would be described by detectives as one of the most painful and cruel methods of murder they had ever encountered. But this wasn't a random act of violence. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This was a wife killing her husband. And the reason why will disturb you more than the murder itself, because just 24 hours earlier, Corinna Smith had learned a secret so devastating, so horrifying that it made her capable of something she never thought possible. This is the story of the boiling water murder, and nothing about it is what it seems. Neston is a small market town on the Wirral Peninsula, just south of Liverpool. It's the kind of place where neighbors know each other's names, where nothing much happens, where people live quiet, unremarkable lives. Michael Baines and Corinna Smith had lived on Highfield Road for years. To their neighbors, they seemed like a normal couple, perhaps a bit mismatched in age, but otherwise unremarkable. When they married in the early 1980s, Michael was 42 years old. Corinna was just 21, a gap of over 2 decades. Michael had been married before and had daughters from his previous relationship. Corinna had a young daughter of her own. Friends and family would later describe their marriage as generally happy, though perhaps less so in later years as the age gap became more apparent. Michael was described as sometimes controlling. Corinna put up with it. For 38 years, they built a life together. They had a son. They grew old, at least one of them did. And whatever problems existed behind closed doors stayed behind closed doors until they didn't. By 2020, Michael Baines was 81 years old, elderly, frail. He required care, and Corinna had become his primary caregiver. She cooked for him, she looked after him, she shared his bed, she trusted him. For nearly 4 decades, she had trusted him. Craig Baines was born to Michael and Corinna, their only child together. By all accounts, he was a troubled young man. He struggled, he made mistakes, he ended up in prison for a serious assault. But there was something about that assault that the family couldn't understand, something that didn't fit. Craig had attacked a man, beaten him badly. When asked why, Craig's answer was disturbing. He said the man was a pedophile. He said the man had touched him sexually. The day before Craig took his own life, he was in distress. He came to his mother, and he said something that would haunt Corinna for the rest of her life. "Mom, he's a pedophile." At the time, Corinna assumed Craig was talking about the man he'd assaulted, the man who'd abused him. She tried to comfort her son. She had no idea what he was really trying to tell her. In 2007, Craig Baines took his own life. He was 25 years old. Corinna was devastated. For years afterwards, she blamed herself. She couldn't understand why her son's life had gone so wrong, why he'd been so troubled, why he'd made the choices he'd made. She had spent 13 years wondering what she had missed. 13 years of guilt and grief and unanswered questions. And then, one summer evening in 2020, she finally got her answer. July 13th, 2020. Corinna's daughter, her child from before her marriage to Michael, came to visit. They shared some wine. They talked. And then her daughter told her something that would shatter everything Corinna thought she knew about her life. Michael Baines, she said, had sexually abused her for years, when she was a child, in that house, under that roof. But that wasn't all. The daughter believed Craig had been abused too, that Michael, his own father, had done things to him. Things that would explain everything. The troubled behavior, the violence, the assault on another abuser, the cryptic warning the day before his death. "Mom, he's a pedophile." Craig hadn't been talking about the man he attacked. He'd been talking about his father. He'd been trying to tell his mother the truth, and she hadn't understood. For 13 years, Corinna had lived with her son's abuser, cared for him, slept beside him, never knowing what he had done. That night, Corinna made a phone call. She contacted a company that administered lie detector tests. She paid £600 as a deposit. She was going to make Michael take the test. She was going to prove what he had done. At 8 p.m., she was recorded on that call. Upset, but coherent, still thinking rationally, still planning to expose the truth through proper channels. Something changed in the hours that followed. In the early hours of July 14th, while Michael Baines slept in his downstairs bedroom, Corinna Smith began to prepare. She boiled 2 full kettles of water. She retrieved a bucket from the garden. And then she did something that would later be described as calculating and cruel. She added 3 kilograms of sugar to the boiling water, over 6 pounds. She stirred it until it dissolved, creating a thick, viscous mixture. Detective Chief Inspector Paul Hughes would later explain why the sugar mattered. The sugar placed into the water makes it viscous, he said. It becomes thicker and stickier and sinks into the skin better. In prisons, this mixture is known as napalm. It's specifically designed to cause maximum damage. The sugar makes the boiling liquid cling to the flesh instead of running off. It creates deeper, more severe burns, more pain, more destruction. Corinna Smith knew exactly what she was doing. The entire preparation took approximately 13 minutes. During that time, Corinna boiled the water, mixed the sugar, and then cleaned up after herself. She threw the empty sugar bags in the bin. She mopped the floor. This wasn't a moment of madness. This wasn't an uncontrollable rage. This was methodical, deliberate, planned, and then she carried the bucket to her husband's bedroom. Michael Baines was asleep, defenseless, unaware. Corinna poured the boiling sugar mixture over his arms and torso. The pain would have been indescribable. His skin began to peel away immediately. He was found later, whimpering in agony, the flesh hanging from his right arm and hand. The burns would cover 36% of his body. After the attack, Corinna didn't call for an ambulance. She didn't try to help her husband. Instead, she left the house and walked down the street. She passed 9 houses before stopping at a neighbor's door. A neighbor she wasn't even close to. She knocked, and when they answered, she said, "I've hurt him really bad. I think I've killed him." Michael Baines was rushed to Whiston Hospital. He was in critical condition. The burns were catastrophic. Doctors performed operation after operation, skin grafts, treatments, everything they could do. For a time, it seemed like he might survive. His condition stabilized. There was hope, but the damage was too severe. The trauma too great for an 81-year-old body to withstand. 1 month after the attack, on August 18, 2020, Michael Baines died from his injuries. The charge against Corinna Smith was upgraded from grievous bodily harm to murder. Detective Chief Inspector Paul Hughes led the investigation. He was unequivocal in his assessment. "Smith killed her husband Michael in such a painful and cruel way," he said. "To throw boiling water over someone when they are asleep is absolutely horrific. To also mix 3 bags of sugar with the water showed the determination she had to cause serious harm." He noted that instead of calling emergency services, she had wasted critical time walking to a neighbor's house to confess. Michael had been left in agony, alone, while his wife sought out an audience for her admission of guilt. In June 2021, Corinna Smith stood trial at Chester Crown Court. The proceedings lasted 5 days. Her defense was simple: she had lost control. The revelation about her husband's alleged abuse had been so devastating, so overwhelming, that she couldn't be held fully responsible for her actions. She pleaded guilty to manslaughter. The prosecution disagreed. Prosecutor Mark Rind argued that Smith had been in control throughout. She was in control and acted in anger and to extract vengeance for what she believed Michael had done, he said. "We say that she intended either to kill Michael or to cause him really serious harm. The 13 minutes of preparation, the deliberate addition of sugar, the cleanup before the attack, all of it pointed to premeditation, not loss of control." The jury agreed. On June 15, 2021, Corinna Smith was found guilty of murder. Justice Amanda Yip delivered the sentence: life imprisonment with a minimum term of 12 years before she could be considered for parole. "Your actions cannot begin to be justified," the judge said, "whatever you believed your husband had done." She acknowledged the devastating impact of the allegations against Michael, but she made something else clear. The abuse had never been proven. By killing her husband, Corinna had ensured it never could be. Killing Mr. Baines also took away any opportunity for the allegations to be tested. That took away his right to a fair trial, bearing in mind that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Michael Baines is dead. Corinna Smith is in prison. And the truth about what happened in that house on Highfield Road will never be known for certain. Did Michael Baines abuse his stepchildren and his own son? The allegations were never tested in court. He was never charged. He never had the chance to defend himself. Or was he innocent, a victim himself of false accusations that cost him his life in the most agonizing way imaginable? What we do know is that Craig Baines is dead. He took his own life at 25 after a troubled existence that he apparently attributed to abuse. His final words to his mother were a warning she didn't understand until it was too late. Whether those words were about his father or someone else, we'll never know. Craig took that truth to his grave. The boiling water murder forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about justice, about vengeance, about the secrets families keep and the damage they cause. Some people see Corinna Smith as a monster who tortured a defenseless old man. Others see her as a mother who finally learned the truth about what had been done to her children and couldn't live with it any longer. The courts saw her as a murderer, and that's what she'll remain for at least the next 12 years. But somewhere in the space between victim and perpetrator, between justice and revenge, lies a truth that nobody will ever fully understand. Some cases don't have heroes, some cases don't have villains, some cases just have broken people, making terrible choices, destroying each other in the darkness. This was one of those cases.